Yeah, sorry, the audio there. However, that's us live. So I'm trying to get things sorted from this end. The conversation will start soon. Please share the broadcast. Invite your friends. We are going to start soon. Maiyegun today. Maiyegun today.
ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dèrò fi wọ́n ní ìran o. Maiyegun ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. Maiyegun ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dèrò fi wọ́n ní ìran o.
Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. This is Maiyegun Live. And this afternoon, I'm going to be having with me, dear brother, Segun Awosanya, Sega Link. And I'm also going to be having with me an attorney today. I would say comrade. I would rather call him comrade. Comrade Dele Farotimi. So he's the is the CEO, the owner of Dele Farotimi firm, law firm in Lekki, in Lagos. And it is popularly called the DF Legal. So he's going to join us at this afternoon to discuss what you have probably reading right now as the caption of the broadcast. So I'm going to bring, I have Comrade Dele already with us, but just to let you know, this is Comrade Dele Farotimi, the man that you probably have seen his videos, viral videos, his views on so many things going on in Nigeria. He's expressed his frustration, his disappointment, and so on. But today we are going to be having a chat with him. And I'm also going to be having with me this gentleman, Segun Awosanya, Sega Link. Many of you know him very much on Twitter, but as well as Facebook. But, Segun Awosanya happened to be the man I admire a lot. I respect him a lot. He's just like the government that probably this generation would have desired if they have people who have that same mindset to, where you can make a call and get freed from the stranglehold of the authorized official criminals carrying guns called the police in Nigeria. Is volunteered this time, timelessly, time without numbers, right? To save so many trapped young people in Nigeria is more important, as you see now, is more important to millions of Nigerians than the government some of them defend. But he's going to speak to us again today, share his views on what I'm going to be pushing forward. And at the end of the day, the conversation is going to be about, should Nigeria break up or not? I am a pro break it up. And I have my own, my own reasons for that, which are very much verifiable. So that is why I'm going to listen to them from their own perspectives. That's the understanding they have, the deep understanding they have in the system and possibly we might, which I believe we would anyway, pick up important lines that will probably shape the future of the current agitation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring on comrade. Let me call him comrade. Comrade Dele Farotimi first. Then I'm going to bring our brother as well. Comrade, sir.
My brother, not be comrade. It's just Dele Farotimi. If you feel the need to give me a title,
You
call me an evangelist.
I like
just
that.
Call me an evangelist.
Oh, but you are actually called probably that's the legal part, right? DF legal. That's something I found out when I was,
in my former life as a lawyer. I used to be part of that firm. These days, I only consult for them. I am a full-time evangelist and believer in the cause of the Nigerian project. So, and in reality, it's come to the point where, as I've said before, it's difficult to believe that you can continue offering people legal opinions when you know that the law you know does not matter. You get to a point where there's only so much you can. It's like you're lying to your clients. You're telling them what the law says, but you know what the law says and what is likely to happen by the time our system is tested are two different ball games. So please leave the lawyer thing out. I'm no longer a lawyer.
I like that because I like that we keep it so real on Maiyegun's diary that we are more or less like the political platform on Facebook, at least, and possibly soon on YouTube. That is so controversial that we were hated for just calling out the criminals in Nigeria. So if you keep it raw with us, in fact, you are welcome home. Let me get on Sega, another firebrand, if I could use that word, another true to health individual that is here today to also share his own views from experience this time around. It won't just be a makeup. Sega.
Thank you very much for having me again on your wonderful program, and it's a privilege for me to be speaking with barrister and comrade Dele Farotimi. I saw you on Arise TV, and I was
brother, man.
I was comforted that I'm not the only mad person in this country.
We are finding ourselves. You know, one thing on this platform, we decided to start an independent platform called Diaspora Radio. So where, if they want to call us mad, then where mad people will congregate. You know, there is this saying that we should be careful of foolish people in large numbers, because in a democracy they can elect a president. So maybe if mad people are beginning to find ourselves, we can actually get rid of the government put together by the foolish people. What do you think? Barrister? No, comrade, rather. Or evangelist. I'm going to get used to it. What do you think?
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
It's for you. I said, Sega said he always thought that it was the only madman in this country, in Nigeria. But when he watched your video on Arise TV, your interviews, then it was like, well, it's finally looking like he's not the only madman. Then I said, on Maiyegun's diary platform, we have decided to launch a sort of a revolutionary online radio platform where we want to discover possibly all the mad people who can possibly reason differently from what we have now. And I said, what do you think about that?
See, brother, there was, I remember, Sega I knew from church, actually.
Yeah.
I found out later on the street that the man is not just a church man. He's an activist. He was out on the street. I found out he's out there. I don't even know how to use the social media thing. And most of the time, I was carrying my pen on my own. But here is the thing, brother. It takes the refusal of a critical minority to accept the pervasive insanity in an environment before you might actually change a society.
Yeah.
If everybody accepts the sanity that we've all managed to domesticate,
yeah,
then there will be no point in seeking any sort of changes in Nigeria. I recall that after Prophet Elijah had wrought that mighty miracle, calling fire from heaven and everything, Jezebel sent a word and said, if I catch you, this and this will happen. He went and crawled into a cave and he was crying, oh Lord, don't leave me. God said, no, not only you. There are several others out there. I have kept for myself. There are several of us out there. It is our refusal to call them out because of the pervasive fear that we have embraced that has made it seem like the minority is actually the majority. We are more than them.
Yeah,
We
I agree.
are more than them. But we
Thank
have
you.
persuaded ourselves because of the fears of what we will eat, what we will drink. We've persuaded ourselves because of the fear of death to keep quiet. Meanwhile, funny part of the whole thing is that the day you were born, the only thing that was certain is that you die. Yeah. Look at this man in America, Louis. He just passed on. 80 years old. His skull was cracked open at 27. That man lived a life, and everybody is now talking about what a great man he was. How many people can be talked of in that sense in Nigeria? There is an opportunity. The pantheon of Nigerian patriots is empty. There is nobody sat in there because they fought for individual rights and personal privileges instead of fighting for the whole country. We have a call in this generation. There is the opportunity to write our names indelibly in history. Let history, our children's children, let them be able to talk about us the way they are going to be talking about Louis. Let us die and they are able to say, oh, so and so person, he lived for this purpose. It was because of him that we are enjoying this. Let people be able to walk in our footpaths.
That is where I'm going to take it up.
Because he did that. Let me not take
That's where I'm going to get started. What are we ready to sacrifice? When is enough, or when would enough truly be enough? And that's where I'm going to, because things didn't get started this way 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. In December, precisely, December 2018, I met you in Lagos, Sega. And we even had a lot of conversation that day. So I had to go back and listen, and watch those, the video. And I was like, there was a bit of, there was some kind of enthusiasm in us when we were looking forward to 2019, believing that maybe Nigerians never thought you would ever get this bad. But they still went on and made that mistake. Through federalism that they've denied the country, they've done everything, every trick in the book, right? To redefine what true federalism should mean. But you as a person, Sega, you have been so closer to part of the government in Nigeria as an ad hoc consultant in different ways. But the one I'm very sure of is that of the police reform. One of the things that true federalism could have done in Nigeria is that states should have been controlling and funding police if the states were financially buoyant enough to be responsible for everything they do, right? Now, in the last 2 years or in the last 18 months that we had that conversation, many of us have detoured. We are no longer interested in Nigeria. But many of you continue to still hold together what you so believe in, that if things are done differently, maybe it can get better. Now, here we are. Some of us no longer believe. What do you think should now be the way forward? This issue of true federalism that will likely be the conversation all about. So what do you think? So far, so good. How do you see it?
Thank you very much. I always like to mix both things together, the town and the gown together when I'm making analysis, because I've seen the mistakes and the blunders of most of our leaders in the past, and I really don't want to make their mistakes or put my foot or my feet in their footpath in order to, make their mistakes and repeat the whole thing. Most of the things that we see as repetition in our climb across socio-political space is not actually mere happenstances. They are majorly a systemic failure. It is a system designed to fail so that some people can be perpetuated in power. And of course, when they begin to give overtures to experts and people they respect out there, people with voices, people who probably have connection with hearts and minds. They are not doing it because they actually want any change whatsoever. What they are doing it for is simply to buy goodwill, to buy the political will, to be able to reinforce, their oppressive system on the people, to the point where people begin to normalize this. And no matter how good you are with your apotheosis or with your hypothesis, with your ideas, you cannot enforce or push your or coerce your ideas on people or force it on people. They must naturally gravitate towards these things. In other words, there is no microwave or switch anywhere. When we're talking about police reforms, remember, I always tell you about our measured optimism, because I have learned that our modern world is built on community, is built on connection, and the magic that comes from combining ideas, so that the toxic myth of exclusion and scarcity is revealed as counterproductive, and which is why you see government fail. The government of the day have lost connection totally from the pulse on the street. They don't even know who they are governing. And so what you see oftentimes is a few enlightened people who keep quiet, who normalize evil with the hope of being on the good side of the people in power so that they can get appointments. We don't belong to that particular category. Where we belong is in that gap, the gap and the gulf between the government and the people themselves, enough to galvanize the people and raise the transformational leaders, enlightened followers who are easy to govern, difficult to rule, and impossible to enslave. You see, it is until the people themselves understand the power that they have under a democracy that they can actually have a true revolution. But anything outside that, you're going to have a lot of problems galvanizing the same people. Now, when you find a society where people glory or deem ignorance as a virtue, you are having a problem, a religious problem for that matter, where you have an agglomeration of people, a village of people who see oppression as their part in life, as their portion in life, as a will of God for them. So with this, every time you rise up to say this is not correct or this is not the way to go, you are seen as a madman who wants something in return. For example, I know there is a lot of people, in fact, over 70% of our youth today, are already in the bracket of what they call the psychological egoist. Psychological egoists are people who, even if you die for them, they see you as trying as much as possible to become a hero. They see you as looking for something for yourself and not even thinking about the sacrifices you are making for them to thrive, which is one of the reasons why in a country where it is difficult for you to find people agreeing on the color of the sky, you need to find common ground, and which has always been our conscious revolution paradigm, which is a means through which you can galvanize the people without actually touching on those polarized, subjects like religions, ethnicity, sexual preferences, which is actually becoming a thing in Nigeria. Feminism, which people don't really understand, and they have been made to be a coven of people who are failures in their being, and then they are now using their gender as a means to blow things out of proportion and make enemies of the people, of certain people they deem to intimidate them. So there are so many crises going on ideologically, and people are being gentrified.
Go on, please.
People are being gentrified systemically, by agents of destruction who are benefiting from the ignorant people who we ignorantly stampeded into power, thinking that they can bring magic, or based on the ideology that we can use strong people to build Nigeria rather than strong institutions. So these are the basic elements that we have put together in order to engage Nigerians. We're not in a hurry. We know that we'll get there someday. But at the same time, where we are going is not just breaking off Nigeria, because even if you break Nigeria into streets, the problem where we're dealing with, we still deal with it. So
that is where I'm coming to. Yeah, that's what I'm coming to, Sega, because I know there's loads that you're going to tell us today. I've got list here. I just can't show you because I know I have to listen today, not talk much. I'm going to go to Evangelist now to give us his own side. Where Sega Link stopped now is that is now tilting towards leadership, right? Leadership failure from every strata. Yeah. Now that's what I want you to come in. Because I listened to one of your videos and you said something about you, Evangelist. Now I'm coming to you. So I watched one of your videos where you said you are now more concerned about the Nigeria you are going to leave for your children, your young children. You are worried for them. And that is why before you even leave, you will do your best to correct some impression. Let's take leadership, for example, now. We have them, failed leadership, who can go on and on and on. And here we are. What's your say on that?
You know, Sega said something, it mentioned it in passing, but it's amazing that several generations of Nigerian agitators have missed that fact. And that is the fact that our problems are systemic. And they will never be resolved by personnel changes.
Yeah.
You could bring 100 Obama, let him be succeeded by another 100 Abraham Lincoln. If they are operating the current Nigerian constitution and the governance systems, Nigeria is a country designed to fail.
Yeah.
Nigeria was designed by myopic men, base men. Base men. I hope you understand the meaning of base men, the dregs.
Yeah.
People with minimal understanding of governance, people without vision. They sat down and all they could think about was how to apportion the wealth and riches of Nigeria to themselves. They created states not because of even administrative convenience. No. They balkanized and destroyed the federal system that was agreed upon before the 1960 independence. They destroyed the very foundation of the Nigerian nation. For the Nigerian nation to ever really be able to survive, there is a need, a very urgent need, to go back to the root of the Nigerian state because it is already dying. The Nigerian state is killing the Nigerian nation. Keep that in mind. The Nigerian state is killing the Nigerian nation. The Nigerian state has found a way to divide the Nigerian people along so many kind of lines. Today in Nigeria, you have more Christians than Nigerians, simply because somebody needs to speak on behalf of Christians so that he can aggregate their rights to himself.
Yeah.
You have more Igbos in Nigeria today than Nigerians because some people profit from speaking on behalf of the Igbos. You have more Fulanis in Nigeria today than there are Nigerians because some people profit from speaking on behalf of those ones. You have more Liverpool supporters in Nigeria today than you have Nigerians because you cannot define whom the Nigerian is until you locate him within a group.
Yeah.
And it is the aggregation of these rights into the group that has destroyed the individual right of the Nigerian and instituted the reign of impunity with which we are all battling today. Secessionist agitations are deliberately fostered by the Nigerian state in order to divide the Nigerian people.
Yeah.
Look at the Niger Delta. There is no part of Nigeria that has been ruled by a Fulani man outside of their own state since 1999 at least. No Fulani man has ruled in Lagos State. I don't remember a Fulani man ruling in Imo State or in Cross Rivers or in Anambra or Bayelsa. These have been sons of the soil. What have they done for their people? That is without excusing the insanity at the federal level. Because what has happened is that Nigeria has become a feudalized democracy. The person at the head of the government may be likened to a sultan, and the state governors, emirs, and in some cases they are mere vassals, where there is somebody in the background who determines how many terms a particular governor may or may not have. Because the governor's election is not dependent on the people's will. It is dependent on the pleasure of the person who is speaking on behalf of the people. So the real issue that we need to be discussing amongst ourselves is pretty clear. And it is this: who is the Nigerian? If we ever get around to having a generic definition for whom a Nigerian is, so that you don't have a super class in relation to whom discretions have to be exercised, so that you have a super class who is above the law, and then the rest of us for whom the law would apply. The space between is the habitation of corruption. Everything they call corruption in Nigeria lives between this space. The super class for whom the law must not apply, the rest of us for whom it must apply. So you have a lockdown, but certain companies' vehicle can pass. See the space my head is occupying. That's the space the policeman collecting the bribe on the road is occupying. That is the space of impunity. It extends into the court, it extends into everywhere. So the pervasive corruption, quote and unquote, that we all see, we are all that you are seeing in the Niger, the NDDC, simply the law does not rule in Nigeria. And the law cannot rule if the citizens are not equal.
I am coming there now, evangelist.
I'm talking because
I'm gonna come in. I know, don't worry. We'll manage it today. We will get our messages across, because there are so many people joining us right now on both platforms, on YouTube and on Facebook. So thank you so much if you are watching. I have a video I want to share with you. It is just a video to kind of give us a bit of a background, or let me say a sort of an acknowledgement of what you have been saying, the two of you, because immediately after that video, I'm going to take on the police brutality. The youth who are the victims in Nigeria believe more in Sega link number than they trust the DPO in charge of their security in their own street. That is not a good sign. No, it is not. And we're going to take that up after this. Part of the systemic failure that we should address, readdress, and continue to address, so that maybe we'll find more madmen, because they will call us mad, that we eventually kick them out in any way it takes. So let's listen to this. It is about the drama going on in Niger Delta. Let's share.
The NDRA complained to Nigerians about the approval that the Minister of the Niger Delta went to seek from the FEC and President Muhammadu Buhari. And the FEC approved that the NDDC purchases or procures 62 operational vehicles for the sum of 1.599 billion naira, at the detriment of the ordinary and suffering peoples of the Niger Delta. This is another publication, still in the Vanguard, dated Friday, June 19, 2020, when we uncovered the plot by Professor Ponde and his team to deceive Nigerians by packing into an uncompleted headquarters in order to justify the 100% payment which has been made to the contractor, Rodman. And we are wondering if we're in a country of sane minds. Mr. Chairman and members of this honorable committee, I am ashamed to be called the Niger Delta, because our corruption perception index dips by the day, where we told Nigerians that the NDDC has packed into an uncompleted building a 16-floor headquarters. How can you claim? How can any sane mind believe you when you say it has reached 95% completion? This is the claim by the Minister for the Niger Delta and the unofficial spokesperson of the NDDC, who has hijacked the role of the Director of Corporate Communications of the NDDC, Dr. Cairo Ojubo, a medical doctor who ordinarily, by the Establishment Act 2000 of the NDDC, has no right to serve as acting executive director of projects. If this country were to be a nation of laws, how can a medical doctor be asked to do an engineering job?
You heard that. So that summarized what Evangelist was saying. The Fulanis were not those who were stealing Niger Delta money, because even if they are stealing it from the background, generally as they are all cohabiting stealing, but the people who claim to represent Niger Delta are actually thieves. And it's good if they own up. I like that. Let's go to this brutality. Police reform, police reform, police reform. And the victims of police brutality are the poor Nigerians, those who are managing, struggling to eke out living, at least from the strangulation, the economic or systemic strangulation purposely set up for them or set up against them by the system, are still those who come after people like yourself. What is really wrong? Sega, I'm coming to you now. What is really wrong? You have met with the IG of police. They've set up presidential blah, blah, blah committee, which was set up by, I believe, the vice president. I always call him Ikene Shatabandu or Pastor Ruga. That's what we call him on Maiyegun's diary. So you work with them. What is wrong? Nothing changes. People still very much call you the IG of police. You are the response team for the police brutality across the country. What is going on? What really happened? What happened?
Okay, I think I need to clarify a few things. Just like I said today, you don't fix a faulty gear of a vehicle in motion. And the thought of fixing a political system from within is naive at best. And I said, especially if the system is designed to fail in order to perpetuate certain interest in power. The iterations and patterns are not necessarily a coincidence, but they are, patterns that must be watched cautiously. I said the overtures by beneficiaries of the dysfunctional system to experts shouldn't be misconstrued as a sudden interest in fixing the system that oils the gears of their criminal enterprise, but a means to buy goodwill and normalize evil. I said nothing illustrates false hope like this antic. See, I don't work with government. They will make it appear so with their political pontifications and whatever it is they put out there. Because with the thoughts that, the Sega will know who has human feelings, who is empathetic, who is a nation builder, whose words are yea and amen, who has integrity, at least who for the past 10 years we've been looking for debt on and we cannot find, despite all our approaches, every single thing we have thrown at him did not stick. If that Sega is now involved in social thing, people will believe it whether it works or not. So that is the narrative from the other perspective. But this is what is actually happening. Social Intervention Advocacy Foundation, which is our organization, that is self-funded. I always like to stress that. Self-funded. We are not seeking grant from any foreigner. We're not looking for money from any politician so that we can be independent in our thought and serve the people the way they ought to. The essence of this is for us to make up our own minds and call a spade when we need to. The moment you take a penny from these people, you are part of them and they will look for ways of destroying you. So regardless, they don't respect business, they don't respect any other thing. The moment you compromise your convictions, you are dead in the waters. So based on that, we know all these things from the beginning because we have studied the people who have gone ahead of us, who have probably felt, now we have made a name with advocacy or with activism, we can go into the political system, which begins to baptize you into corruption. There's no two ways about it. You have to do it their way if you want to make any sense of whatever it is that you're going through. So we have seen all these loopholes, we've seen the booby traps, and we did not fall into any of these things. So what we did also is not to assume that people will deem us saints by creating our own platform. You cannot assume that the police will suddenly be disbanded and then we will become the new police force. Just the same way that we don't believe or subscribe to some activist ideals that they can wake up one morning, demonize some people, and then become the sudden alternative to rule Nigeria. It doesn't really work that way because the system is still not fixed. I've given this analogy several times that when you inherit a factory that manufactures candles, you don't make Coca-Cola from the same factory by changing the staff. You change the modular arrangement of the factory itself, change the machines, change the equipment to be able to change the product of the whole thing. And in order to do that, you need to go through the process. You see, there are laws for everything in Nigeria, even for cutting your nails. But how many of them are recognized? How many of them are identified? How many of them are actually followed through? You will not believe that today in Nigeria, we live in a country or society where you're 20 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than by terrorists. And we have AJA 2015, we have Anti-Torture Act of 2017, we have constitutional, we have the 1999 Constitution there, we have the Fundamental Human Rights Proceedings, we have Police Act of 1943, which is dysfunctional and still represent the constabulary. We have the Firearms Act, we have the Human Rights Treaty, running into hundreds that we have signed as a country with several nations, and we have breached every single one, which makes us the worst police, which makes our police system the worst in the world for the second year running. So what's changed? As at the time, what we are referring to as presidential panel and the rest, they are, I keep telling you, any solution we bring that is not legislated are mere stopgaps. The change of a single IG can turn down all the gains of that particular policy. And that is exactly what happened. Under Idris, after they have tried to blackmail and try to shut us up without success, they agreed to say, okay, let's work together, give us your ideal. And I kept telling them then that my views are not just philosophical, they are practical. Because I am not seeking to replace the police with anything with my organization. We have the means to create a call center that can hold police to account where people can turn to. But by the time we continue to ostracize the police, the closest authority to the people, we become the enemy of the state. And before you know it, even the police will stop believing in the state. And that means there's an indirect coup d'etat, on the soil of Nigeria. That means there will be two governments. There will be a state within the state. And then, of course, with somebody who has a name, there will always be a problem. Police have not been, or the government have not had any cause to knock on my door or to harass me as a free citizen or as an active citizen, simply because I am not on their turf. I'm not seeking power. I'm not seeking to print poster. I'm not dragging anything with them, other than saying we need to create a legacy for our children, for generations unborn, and for our children. And that's basically what we've been running. And what happened then was the gap, just like Comrade Dele Faro to me has said, there is a gap created when you create artificial scarcity and exclusion. So when people are deprived others of education and opportunity, they are not helping themselves. They are depriving themselves of the benefit that would have come from others who would end up contributing. We don't benefit from treating others poorly, but we certainly pay for it. This is why the Nigerian states are paying for a lot of things today. The police you see today that have become armed robbers and bandits are actually victims of the system. Because when you balkanize a whole structure, the closest authority to the people, when you make police the enemy of itself, when within the police structure, an IG cannot even control the people under him. When the IG does not have security of a tenure enough to bring about changes, who actually have to dodge booby, walk on eggshells to bring about changes, then there's a problem in that particular country. Our constitution itself, like I said, we don't really have a constitution. What we have is also a stopgap, that benefits certain people or certain interests. Because our constitution is a document that was badly written, for a badly structured environment.
Like
that can, you understand? So as a way, that's why I always talk about reforms. I always talk about repealing and replacing. I have read the law to the point where even lawyers are afraid of me. You understand? So, and I'm not saying, and I keep saying, I am not dragging anybody's profession. In fact, I don't get called by titles. Nobody knows what I read whatsoever. And it doesn't really matter. What matters is, are we doing? It's not about who is right. It's about what is right.
So what can we say then, Sega? What can you personally say? You have explained a lot to us now, right? Because what I actually wanted to get out of there is that Osinbajo is learned. They call him a learned, lawyers call themselves my learned colleagues and all that, right? Osinbajo is learned. He was interested in that at the time. Then what stopped? Because he publicly announced the scrap of F-Stars at the time, I remember, right? That, they were going to do this to them, or they're going to reform them, this and that. What happened? Was there anything? You said your advocacy then was a stopgap, yeah? Then what stopped it from jumping the gap and get it done? Or anyway,
precisely legislation. Yeah. Legislation. We are in the middle of a dialogue where we are actually fixing the police reform bill.
Yeah.
So we're fixing the Police Act of 1943, which mirrors what used to happen in the colonial era. So we're replacing it with a police reform bill that will mirror society in the here and the now. So that was the process we are in. And the process became bogus at some point, that we have to divide it into two. To have a police trust fund bill, which actually solves the problem of the ease of operation of the police financially, and that has been passed into law. But these are executive bills, which should have been championed by the presidency themselves. But the president don't want to finance any bill whatsoever. He wants us to do the dirty work, which makes it cheaper for the executives. And at the end of the day, they will still have their way when the bill comes out. And what happened with the police trust fund bill was that the moment it was passed into law, they waited for 1 year. This is a bill that has a 6-year lifespan for us to generate enough money for police to be financially independent so that they can have at least operational leeway to be able to run. But what they did, where they waited for us, was in the appointment of a board that will execute that particular bill. What they put in there were people who are lost in their journey, in their political journey, whose vision have been blurred, people whose mindset created the same problem were the people that they appointed on the board. So automatically, it was just more or less defeated. And we're still arguing with the president on that particular thing to review the appointment of the people executing that particular bill that we labored and suffered for. Secondly, on the police reform bill, coronavirus got involved in the delay of the technical session of that particular deliberation, which we have already had public hearing for. If that bill has been passed into law, a lot of the things that police do with impunity today will have been criminalized by the law, and it will have been easier for us to bring them to book. But pending the time that the legislative arm gets its act together and fix that bill, we have a stopgap in place whereby people report the atrocities of police and impunity of police, and then we move into action to get them, to hold them to account, to bring them to book, to bring justice to the people, and to ensure that those people don't return to the police system. And then they get charged to court and punished for their, and that's what we have been doing for the past 4 years.
I can actually, I can testify to that, and many people can testify to that, including immediate refund of extorted money from their victims. So I can testify to that myself. I'm going to go
in Nigeria.
I know. I'm going to go to Evangelist now. Evangelist is someone who seems to be kind of passionate with what I have studied so far. Yeah, so passionate about what the future will be if things continue like this. But the people who are going to live in that future, they always say it is always better, to be involved in the future that you are going to feature in, right? The youth today, they are everywhere. And we are dragging ourselves on every social media platform. One sad reality that keeps breaking my heart when I look at the consequences of all these atrocities is to see a young man in his 30s still living off his aged parent for survival in the same country that has no plan for him. Here we are, the youth. How do you think it is possible to actually have a united agreement that they are the victims? They should never be the the defenders of the gladiators that they love so much. Evangelist, I want you to come in there, the youth.
I'm going to do something, and this is, I actually think we've been very unfair to the Nigerian youth. We have been most unfair. My generation particularly, we failed them.
Yeah.
And then we turned around and began to blame them for our own failure to provide leadership to them. There is a generation ahead of ours that have refused to give power. But you cannot blame them because we refused to take power. And we allowed that generation to, with its limited vision of the future, or no vision of the future, shape a future that it does not even understand. And then we turn around and blame the youth for their loss of engagement with the Nigerian system. And here is the thing. When you are having Big Brother Africa, those same youth are quite engaged. I was trying to reach Naira Marley recently because I found that the young man has a wide connection with the Nigerian youth. He has a loud voice. But what is he using the voice for? Does he himself understand that he is only as poor as all the other kids that are busy sagging their pants without getting something up here? This is not about him. But here is the thing. You've asked the question, the Nigerian youth. Who has given them an alternative behind which to rally? People have come out to talk. Sega is doing a fantastic job saving their hearts from the SARS. But as I said to one of my friends, Taiwo Akinlami, who also fights for children's rights, just like Sega is fighting against police brutality, Taiwo fights in the specific area of children's rights, especially their sexual rights. And I said to him over 10 years ago, I said, what you are doing is that you are treating symptoms instead of treating the actual disease. The disease is the system.
Yeah.
Sega said the constitution is badly drafted. That is for me and you. We can say that for those whom it benefits, is a perfect document.
Yeah.
So when we now begin to talk about it being badly drafted, we are talking like that because we presume that our own interest and the interest of those the constitution benefits are the same. So these youth, to engage them, you need to give them a vision for the future that you are asking them to queue behind.
Yeah.
I have an interest in Nigeria. Look up the word when we are done. It's called youth quake. You know what that means?
What?
Youth quake. That is when the children wake up and they demand that you stop squandering their future. Because the way things are going, that system that was designed to fail. One American who spent years here reading all kinds of intelligence reports, he was the ambassador here. He spent years, he read all sorts of CIA reports left and right. He knew our leaders. He knows them better than you and I. He knows their crooks. He knows their account details and everything. He knows their dealings. He reads the security report. Their monies are not in GTB or anywhere. It's their change that they keep here. Their real money is outside our country. That's why we are poor. So after the guy was done reading, you know what he said? He said Nigeria was going to break up by 2015. He was a former ambassador. His name escapes me.
Campbell. I think it was Campbell. Was it? I think it was the one. Yeah, go on. Former ambassador to Nigeria, American ambassador to Nigeria.
He knew what he saw. Yes, he knew what he saw when he was saying what he said. But here is the thing. The children, these youth, they can see it too. They can see that there is no future if things continue the way it is. But who has talked to them? Have we shown them a different way or a different path? Nobody revolts on behalf of the people. You have to show them a future compelling enough for them to desire to walk away from the moribund system into which we are currently locked. Unless you show them something that gets them interested and invested in change, you are wasting time. It's about sloganeering. Those kids have learned. Somebody was asking me the other day, he says that these people you are looking up to. I said, who are you looking up to? Who is up there? Which one of our current rulers would you have as an example for your own child? Which one of them? Exactly what have they done that history will remember them for and that you want emulated by any one of your own children? So those kids that we are accusing of being disconnected, we should ask ourselves, what are they supposed to connect to? The only thing they can connect to is the sybaritic living of our rulers. Think about that. We don't have leaders. We have rulers. People who think only of here and now. I'm a Christian before anything else. There's a part in Habakkuk. He says the vision is for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it. Write it down. Make it plain. That those who read it might run with it. Where is the vision run in Nigeria? Which one of our leaders are visionary? What is the future that they have called the youth to come to? We live in the moment because our rulers live in the moment. And the children, the youth, they've learned to live in the moment. I shudder to think of the number of Nigerian youth that are drug addicted. And then look around you. In Lagos, yes, Sega can relate. I used to worship in the same church with Sega. At that junction, the number of youth begging. It's become an it does my head in when I look around me and I see beggars. It's become a form of harassment. You know what? There are 14 million of them by the government's own count. 14 million. They're walking on the street. They have no jobs. They have no training. They have no education. They are drug addicted. Most of them are here in Lagos. You call them Amari Jiriagu. Some of them speak Yoruba better than both of you. In a few more years, you don't even know where they're from. And it doesn't matter where they're from. They're Nigerians. I hope there will be a Nigeria by then. If we continue like this, there's not likely to be one.
Let me go to Sega.
The difference between a revolution and an implosion.
Evangelists, we still have time. There's so much. We are taking them one by one. And so far, so good. We are yet to even get to the half of it. So I'm going to go to Sega on this because you mentioned something. You mentioned Lagos. And you gave instances of all these systemic failures, and they are already brewing. I started Maiyegun's diary simply because I became worried. I left Nigeria simply because I knew there was nothing there for me, except if I probably, waited for long enough to hope. And at some point, I felt like even if I have to wash the toilets, if I have to be a security guard, if I have to work in the cold, go hungry sometimes, and if I eventually have to make small money for myself, normally, expectedly, I would expect to build a small bungalow for myself in my hometown in Odogbolu. Then if I'm lucky enough, I may buy myself a small car. Then I want to retire back to my hometown after long years in the cold. Then I sat down that day and I felt like, the children abandoned today, there are people pretended they don't exist. Some of them will die. Some of them will live. Some of them will turn out good, but many of them will turn out bad. And they will survive and live on the system one way or the other. One day, they might see me driving my jalopy, an old man. And they might say, look how it's so fresh. We heard that his children are living abroad. Maybe when we kidnap him, he must be one of those who stole from us. And if we kidnap him, maybe we'll get something. And as a poor man, I may die in their hand. I became jittery. I became worried. Then I said I was going to start calling them out. To the point that maybe when I start doing that, if the system doesn't change, maybe that will be my own leverage. At that time, my videos, when I turn hold and say, I shouted. So Sega, Showore came to Nigeria. He left the same comfort. He left the same secured future that he fought for. He wasn't handed that wasn't handed over to him. He fought for it in America for 18 years. And he built a life for himself and his family. Then he felt touched that he had to come back. He was vilified, not by the old people, but by the young people who are the victims of the system. You have been a victim of you have been the target of their trolling as well. The youth, where are they in all of this? When do you think this can actually get to them and we can have a united front? Like the evangelist pointed out. Sega.
Evangelist mentioned something wonderful, and I can also recall some of our dialogues in the past in church, sometimes at the basement when we're tired of what is going on in the religious affairs of the church, and we step downstairs in the car park to just chat for a few minutes. And then most of the time when we talk like that, it opens up new channels and all, which is one of the reasons why our advocacy and our organization did not follow the path of most advocacies or most activist agenda or NGO agendas. We are not fixing symptoms. We are going to the root of the core essence of the problem. And what exactly is core when we're dealing with this? The core actually is in education. There's a reason why education was deliberately ruined this way. There's a reason why we swap education for indoctrination. You see, it is natural for every human being to want to do something unique, to want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, to have self-actualization. And our youth have that yearning. But because there are no role models, like he has just mentioned, we don't have leaders to look up to. And again, the idea that power, or leadership is only from, certain aspect of the sector of the economy, or probably from the political sector, or from the people who are actually leading captains of industry and all. It's actually a dead idea, because every single person can express leadership from where they are. And this is actually the fundamentals of our thesis, and also the test or the proof of our work, to show that, look, even as a son of nobody in this country, as an random ordinary Nigerian citizen, you can actually make your voice heard and have and activate something out there. And because we have identity crisis, our identity crisis, or a philosophy that doesn't even tell us precisely who a Nigerian is. We don't even know how to identify a true Nigerian, because there's no single document that actually confers citizenship onto any Nigerian. As it were now, there's something called civil registrations and vital statistics, where from birth till you progress in life, there is actually there's an harmonized data collection that begins to give you ownership within the system within the Nigerian state. There's no such thing. It is a money-making venture for every arm of government in Nigeria, year in, year out. And every time they come and sing you some songs that in 5 years' time, in 3 years' time, they will fix this, they will do this, they will do that. They will create committees that are dysfunctional, use the heads of the committee, appoint people who doesn't even have an idea of what this whole thing is about. And then they will sprinkle a few people who probably have some goodwill out there that people can trust. And then that's the end of the whole game. 5 years will come like tomorrow, and then nothing has been achieved. So when you have a youth hub that have been so frustrated, dreaming is no longer a thing to aspire to. Everybody live in a daylight nightmare. And birds born in cages usually see flying as a disease, which is why they attack anybody who is not within their indoctrination, who is not trapped by the same chains that they wear as gold, as an ornament around their necks. So these are the issues that we have. That's why we are focused on reinforcing quality education in our climb through teaching of rights to Nigerians, and then showing them how to engage the system that they have today. An average Nigerian will look at what's happening in America and believe that our solution lies in taking to the streets and carrying misspelled signs and banners and all. It's not going to fix anything, because the people you're dealing with are barbarians. They shoot at unarmed citizens who are protesting, while they allow Boko Haram to be reintegrated into our system, into our security architecture. When police officers don't see it as their duty to shoot at a Fulani herdsman, because they feel they are going to upset the president. Because the Fulani tribe is not a country. They are a nation on their own, regardless of which country they find themselves. And if you are so unfortunate as to have a Fulani man as your president, they own your country. They are virtually above the law. And that's what you are seeing playing out. This is not an allegation. It's something we see play out every day.
Sega, that is where I'm going to come in. This is getting interesting now, because I know the two of you have done so much and continue to do so much because you believe that it is a systemic failure. And if that is changed in any way, then things will, systematically as well change. Don't you think, and I want to also go to Barrister too, because I picked something from what you said as well, that the youth, they don't have a particular ideology they can call national ideology that attaches them to being Nigerians, right? We have Nigerians right now who have rejected that identity, and they are doing everything in their own right to continue to give themselves that satisfaction that as long as they live, they can opt out of Nigeria, because this is just about going in circle. Maybe this is our own time. Those before us also saw same, that some people will either leverage on your good intention, then ruin it at the end of it, then we go back to square one, then we try it again with another person, then he also brings in his own committee, board, and all of those things that they have structurally set up already. And it's like a way. No president will come in and say, listen, guys, all this board nonsense, I'm going to cancel it, okay? Let the ministry undo any job that has to do or assign to their ministry. All board, this rubbish, I don't want them. It won't happen. Now, if you are then trying to change the system, believing that maybe they will appoint the right people into the right board that will then implement your good intention, And with time, then we can get things done. Don't you think that in a way is one way or the other agreeing with those who disagree that Nigeria should continue, because it's going to be effort in futility, in circle and in circle. The constitution can be changed and all of that. So I'm pushing that back to you, Sega. Okay?
No, it is not so. You see,
waiting for someone to have our own kind of mindset to get this done, because that's what works now. Go on.
No, that's not the situation. The situation is understanding what it is meant by power belonging to the people. The 1% cannot continue to have an oppressive right over the 99%. And the only way that can happen is if the 99% realize their role within the polity. And that has not happened.
And
Sega, been made, like
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I'm so sorry I'm cutting you there, right? Sorry. I never done that before, right? Let me rephrase it. What I'm saying is this, okay? If you agree that the 99%, okay, let me say, Evangelist now. He said, maybe if we can have, let's push it to the national level and say, maybe if the young people have the opportunity of saying, this is how we can break away from this rotten system and get things done. And we want to champion that. And the other side say, to get Nigeria working, let us break it up. So that unit by unit, you can promote ideologies that the young people can actually support, that will get them included and build a nation. Don't you think if we choose to go that way, in a way, as a new orientation generally, without going the old way of, I'll let you speak. Go on.
Ageism is not our problem. It is not about young people, male, female, thing and all. It's about humanity. The human structure itself, as they say, is that the human being as a person, as a standing stock itself, is what is being affected here. We are all human beings, whether we like it or not, and we all have our aspirations. We also all have our agendas. We also have all our innuendos. So when you look at a system, when they say something is systemic, in other words, it was designed to function alongside certain beliefs and ideas and and purposes. Now, when you walk through the purposes and you are able to engage using the extant laws, at least there's something we all hold on to as a nation. If you say Nigeria is a country, what is the basis of Nigeria being a republic? Constitution. Okay, based on what we have on our constitution, are we living by that? If you are engaging government, for example, and you are engaging government based on an argument of we're breaking away, nobody is going to sit down at table with somebody who is an insurrectionist. Okay, but rather when you are an advocate who sees both sides, you see from the government side, you see how they are operating, you see what they've inherited, you see through their problems, and you also see the side of the people enough to understand their problems and the issues that they are dealing with based on their idiosyncrasies and all. And you're saying this is the gap between these two parties, and you're bringing the two parties together to say, look, this is how we can work together towards a common goal and a win-win situation, without disenfranchising those who feel power is their rights, and also by giving what the youth want, which is an enabling environment to make them thrive and express themselves. You understand? The youth are not saying we want to rule Nigeria because they don't even have an idea of what the Nigerian concept is. You understand? The battle between the North and the South has been forever. The North will always be checkmating the South, and the South will always be distrusting the North. For ages, that's how the political system has been designed. But our youth are not even prepared. They are not even product of history. They don't even understand what all these things are all about. All they want, because they are microwave generation, they just want a country that works for them, where they can blow, they can be better than their neighbor, and the rest of it. So we need to engage on the ideological level first, and awaken these people to know what to expect. What we have on ground now is a people who are hiring carpenters who doesn't even know what carpenters do. You understand? So when you bring in the carpenter, you don't know if they hit the hammer on the table twice and they say you should give them 2 million, you will pay because you don't know what they ought to do. So our youth, that is the biggest population hub within Nigerian demography. Don't actually know what real or true governance means. Because most of them were luckily born during the military junta or during the trial and error of 1999 when we started our democracy all over again. So they don't really know what good governance means. And they always look at political figures. And during election times, they behave as if they are playing a game of Big Brother Africa. That is a reality TV show without understanding the implication and without having the apprehension of the future enough to understand that it is their future that is being ruined. 5 years have gone, 6 years have gone now, whether we like it or not. Somebody who was 20 years as at the time when Buhari came in. He's no longer 20. He's dangerously headed for 30. And he's dangerously headed for being a failure. I have 40-year-old people who are even older than 40 living in their parents' house today. They don't have any means to rent a house by themselves or send their own children to school. And it's going to get worse. We have seen the coronavirus wave coming, and we have seen how many people have been retrenched from the banking sector. People who have children in covenants in expensive schools who can no longer feed their family. I know how many interventions we've run in this regard. So the solution is not to create another crisis within the crisis of expecting that some certain gun-wielding or tyrannical mind, people with tyrannical mindset, we have utopian dreams overnight because they just felt it's their turn to take over the government and they can do better. It is not like that. We need to chart the path and see where we have gone wrong, engage the authorities enough to see where we can intervene in issues, and when you give respect, it also returns to you. I've been there and I'm talking from experience. Most of the achievements of even this government that we're talking about, they didn't do it alone. It is when they reach out to people that they know that, look, these people have integrity and they will do justice because they want the future of Nigeria to be better. They will engage you because of that, and you will do what you need to do. And when I say engagement, it doesn't necessarily mean contractual engagement. It means, okay, we want to do this, we want to do that. And we know it is to the benefit of what you stand for, because our organization stands for building strong institutions, peace, justice, and what have you, based on the goal 16 of the global goals. So because of that, they will easily invite us and say, what do you think about this? What do you say about this? What are your contributions towards this? How can we solve this crisis? And then you give them for free, because I always put all the things, my thoughts, on Twitter. I just put it out there. I said, dude, these are the things you can do. You don't even need to meet me, under closed doors. These are things you can do immediately and get results. And when they do those things, they get results. And they come back to say, thank you. But of course, because of ego, and government will not come out and say, if not for so. They are not citizens, ordinary citizens who will come out and say, thank you, Sega, for what you have done. And the same people who they put out there to checkmate you just in case you wake up with an idea of getting power or overthrowing them, are the ones you see who behaves like monsters on the on the internet. Because they feel that the good that you are doing is eclipsing the value of the demigods that they are worshiping. And because of that, the time will come, you will replace it, and then they will be out of jobs. So this is their fear. And when they begin to see that somebody is exercising leadership and is not depending on anything, and they can't find any debt on you, they begin to fear you as a force, and then begin to throw around words like, nobody is a saint. I'm not presenting myself as a saint. I am not asking you to come forward for absolution.
I know. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go to Evangelist again. Evangelist Dele Farutini. Thank you so much for the time. We've just crossed the 1 hour threshold. We have about 20 minutes to go. Okay, and I'm so thankful and grateful for turning up and doing this with us. I mean, with me today, and giving us a better, another perspective into what is wrong with Nigeria. And that's why I'm going to take it to you now, Evangelist. Agitation everywhere. Revolution now came. Nigerian youths, they preferred, thanks to those who stood up, because if not for them, it would have been a complete mockery. But they stood up as well. I mean, after all, revolution now came. They rubbished it. Agitation is ongoing everywhere now. Yorubas are now agitating. Sideways is gaining attention. Before we know it, many of us will become champions for Oduduwa Republic, like everywhere we go. Evangelist. It has failed. It has failed. So far, so good. How long do you think enough will be enough? Because you have told me it's failed already. Everything has failed. Now, how long do you think they can hold on? And enough will truly be enough.
All through the time my brother Sega was talking, there were things you were asking him some questions, and I was pinching myself not to bust into your conversation. And then you went and asked me the question I've been waiting for.
Oh dear. Then you have it.
Let me. I'm going to take some time, but
take your time.
It's a very important question. Yeah, you just asked a very, very important question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the thing about secessionist struggles in Nigeria is that it detracts and distracts. It's a distraction. There are three major tribes in Nigeria. If we're going to break it down to the several republics that have been championed, the Fulani Hausas will talk to you about the Arewa Republic. But within that Arewa Republic, there are people with centuries-old history of Fulani repression who would want nothing to do with any such republic. They would rather die than become part of some Arewa Republic. When it was convenient for them, when there was the myth of a single monolithic north, when they benefited, that's the Middle Belt, the Gongolas, the Kanuris, all that part, all of us, stupid Yoruba people, and I'm not saying that to abuse us, it's about our level of ignorance.
Sorry.
We think everybody from across the Niger is an Hausa man. There are vast minorities trapped in that space we call the North, who want nothing whatsoever to do with any Arewa. They have histories of Fulani slavery to recount. Long before the British and the other Europeans came here to start raiding slaves, the Fulanis and the Boronos had been trading slaves in the trans-Saharan slave trade 300 years before the white man came to these parts. Let's be clear about that. So when you are talking about breaking up Nigeria, remember that there is that vast minority group up in the north. When you come to the part that the fraudulent Kanu wants to turn into his Biafra Republic, you have a lot of minority groups, the Biobios, the Effiks, the Jaws, people who don't want any part of any Biafran Republic. They just want, let me leave that part first. Come back to Yoruba land, where all of us, three of us who are busy speaking Dogon Turenchi are from. When is the Eguman from Badagry going to ever become the governor of Lagos State? Since we've begun to aggregate interest into groups, what about this group? What about the Awori man? Now let's go to Oyo State. The Okeogun man. What has he done that it is a taboo for him to become a governor in Oyo State? The point I'm making is this. Secessionist arguments are distractions. They are a waste of time. We gain more by fighting for a united Nigeria where each and every one of us have the same rights. I'm not interested in lording it over the Igbo man. I don't want the Fulani man to lord it over me, and I don't want to lord it over him either. When people begin to arrogate rights to themselves on behalf of groups, it is a fraudulent concept. It is not done because of any Fulani man. Muhammadu Buhari might be in Aso Rock. He might be having fun there. The Fulani man that is in the bush, suffering malaria and all kinds of pains, what do you think is his lot in that government? Let me conclude by saying this. When you take an aggregation of the several minority groups that are across all the geographical zones that have their ideal utopian republic that they're advertising and further breaking up Nigeria and distracting all of us from facing the urgent task of bettering the Nigerian nation. When you aggregate all of them, they are not up to the sum total of the minority. Take the Hausa man, the Fulani man, join all of them together. The Biafran Republican, the Odua Republican, the Arewa Republican, the major groups that are busy shouting for those republics. The sum total of them is not up to the minority groups when you bring them together. So there is a fourth tribe that we never ever consider in Nigeria when we are talking about this distractive argument about secessionist struggle. That fourth group are the minorities. They gain nothing in your republics. What is in Odua Republic for the Ilajeman? What is, when was the last time a Fulani man ruled Lagos? When was the last time you had a Fulani ruler in Ogun State?
Let me drop something there so that will help you, so that you will continue what you are saying, okay? What people are also asking, pointedly, is this, that as you have also said yourself, that we are not involved in this Nigeria that we want to fight for. We are not involved. There is nothing that really gave us citizenship, that defined us as Nigerians. And if we say what is in that republic for an Ilaje man, do you know that the agitators will also ask you what has been in it for an Ilaje man being part of Nigeria right now? I just need to chip that inside. Continue.
No, I get you loud and clear, but the point I am making is this. The power, the struggle it would take to birth a true Nigerian nation where there is everything for everybody is less than what it would take, because you can actually unite everybody behind that central idea that let's fight for a Nigeria that works for all of us, not for some of us, for all of us. Is an easier concept to rally people behind. All these youth that you are saying they are not engaged, you can engage them if you can sell them a vision of a Nigeria that works for everybody, not some.
Exactly.
People are not migrating from Nigeria again. It was Sheun Omokonibo here. Sheun was the first person to say it. He said people are not migrating from Nigeria again. They are escaping. If people are not escaping, why are they dying in oceans? Why are they willing to drown in the Mediterranean? Why are they crossing the Sahara and dying in the Sahara? I read the account of one of the immigrants, a female. She said as part of the pack, as part of your survival pack, before you left the pack in Benin, you buy condoms because you know that it is a given that you are going to be raped. So you will then persuade your rapist that please take condom. And people are living through, and they are paying to live. And you are talking about migration. That's not migration, that's escaping. People are running away. But if you can unite them, I'm sorry, please.
All right, sir, go on. Yeah, go on.
The people, if somebody is committed enough to his sanity, that he is running away, prepared to be raped, he has sold family, he and she has sold family heirlooms, knowing that there is the possibility of slavery in Libya before the risk of crossing the Mediterranean if you have survived crossing the Sahara. Think about it. That person, if you give him the right vision of a future that is possible, that is egalitarian and might deliver to him that would deliver him from what he's running from, it's easier to get him to come into that struggle than to be talking to him about some utopian Odua Republic or Biafra Republic. Sorry. All these Kano people ruining Abia State, how many of them are Fulanis? Is Ahmed Bola Tinubu a Fulani man? Let's stop. See, all this story about breakup, it's just so much story. The system itself even pays people to agitate for breakup because it's a distraction.
Now, we have a problem.
How did Nnamdi Kanu leave Nigeria?
We have a problem. Yeah, we have a problem. I want you to address on this because you said it's a very, very important topic. And I'm so happy. I made it clear to my friends that, and I also made it clear from the beginning that you are doing a lot to change what you think is wrong by using every resources at your own or every tool at your own disposal to challenge the system. But I have this poster, and I'm going to post it to Sega, okay? Because we know the division, we do. We know the problems, and we also probably know the solution. But we have one thing that is yet to be, to be agreed to: the identity politics that says, if Sega stand up tomorrow and say, you know what, let's take it on them, like Showore did. That moment is when you will realize Showore was a Yoruba man, or was an Ilaje man, or was a this, or was that. And that has kept us on managing the symptoms, like Evangelist said. Here we are. Two of you agree. When Evangelist was talking, Sega was, yeah, sure. Now, where do you think, or who do you think will be the right person to actually lead? Or are we going to pray? Evangelist, I'll come to you. Sega, you are doing a lot. You know that it is the system and the people representing the system. When we get the right people in, then we will fix the system. It's not going to happen. Here you are to convince me it will happen. Go on.
Please, I want to make something very clear.
Okay.
And that is that most of us, in the genuineness of our hearts, we all want to make an impact in the world. We even want to change the world. So we invest ourselves in education, academic thoughts, theory, and action. But most of the time, these doesn't play out as we thought. It doesn't play out as we have seen it in our head. It's like this history of the tappers and the listeners. When you tap a song with your hand, it is you that knows the song you are tapping. People who are listening to what you are tapping is just listening to noise sometimes. And we don't see this sometimes when we are proposing ideas. We get too locked up in our heads to assume that everybody sees the right picture that we are trying to paint out there. You see, caution is a better part of valor. When you are trying to do certain things, there are ways in which you can run your experiment, understand how some things run. You see, things don't just happen in vacuum. You can't just wake up one morning and say you want to do this because you believe in this and because there are some people who support it. You see, the moment you are trying to force an idea, you begin to create resistance, even from your own self. So the same way a farmer who plants a seed, who learns the art of farming, we have to still depend on God to give the increase. It's the same way we have to continue to, effortlessly, believe in the things that we're doing enough to allow it to take roots. And now, what do I mean by this? You see, we have been indoctrinated enough to believe that once we see a problem, we blow it out of proportion, find somebody to blame for it, create an enemy, do a we against them campaign, and then people prefer us to other people. And this is the same mentality that they're using to attack us. And this is the same mentality that they're using to divide us. This is the same mentality they're using to distract us. I'm not going to engage anyone on secession or tribalistic anything and all. And the only way you can actually win with Nigerians, youth or otherwise, is when you show more than you say. And we have been given to showing that, look, we are not managing symptoms. We are not running an NGO for grants. We are doing this based on a collective resolve, based on a common ground that aligns with our conscious revolution paradigm. In other words, we have looked at the system. We have seen how it has been run. We have seen what the problem is. We've seen the role of every individual in it, and we're shining the light enough to help other people find their uniqueness within themselves in order to contribute to what we have on ground. And they can see how it works. And with that, the NSAS movement worked because of one thing. It was it's the most consistent movement in Nigeria today. We have been running for going to 4 years now. No division, all youth across Nigeria, whether north, south, east, west, we're all together on it. Whether you are a Muslim, Christian, we're all together. There is no discrimination. Whether you are rich or poor, you'll be shocked to know how many VIPs report their cases directly to us because they can't go to the police station. Who will a first lady or a former first lady go and report to? A policeman that has not eaten? So when they come to us, we know how to navigate that thing and get the husband's attention enough to stop whatever it is that they are doing. And because they respect us enough, and we have the kind of integrity that they do not possess enough to deal with such problems, and we're not rubbing it in their face. We're doing it in a way that the structure is there, ownership is there. People can see themselves in the program. People can see the platform as, working for them enough to say, I am contributing my quota to this by doing this in my own state. So this is the kind of empowerment we're talking about. It is quiet. It is revolutionary because revolution starts from the mind. So it is not about, a game of raising tantrums and creating a we against them, because that's the easiest part of, getting people to rally around behind you when you're fighting something. If I say that we're working towards Operation Feed the Nation, now nobody's going to come to that thing. But if you're saying we're battling against hunger because there's a fight, everybody wants to be shown on TV carrying placard and say, yes, I was part of the people that rioted today.
Thank you, Sega. Thank you. I know we won't have enough time, but I just want to manage it for all of us, because stealing this hour from you, I know what time means in the UK. Yeah. So if you have to steal time, especially weekend where you are supposed to be elsewhere. So I'm going to round it up now. And my question for rounding it up is this. It's going to be our title. The topic today. When do you think enough will be enough? When do you think enough will be enough? I'll go to Comrade Evangelist now. Fasharoti. Farotimi. I keep mixing it up. Fasharoti of Ondo, but they are all great names. So Yeah. So when do you think enough will be enough, sir?
I think enough is already enough, if the truth be told. But as Sega pointed out, and it's important that we align this as well, it is only the system that benefits from violence. The common man on the streets gains nothing in anything violent. So if you really don't want violence and you're seeking change, the first thing you do is to seek to educate.
Yeah.
I have devoted my life to educating the people. That's why I called myself an evangelist. An evangelist does not walk away from preaching, even in a brothel. He goes wherever it's called. It's about having a platform from where to engage the people and to then at least try as much as possible to educate them as to their rights, and then educate them as to the alternatives that they might pursue instead of the moribund condition in which we currently exist. When is enough going to be enough? It's already more than enough. If we continue the way we are, the future is a little scary as far as I can see. Because we are raising children who cannot live in the country they would inherit from us. And it has become urgent for me that something changes. But that change, why I keep speaking against secessionist arguments, is because it's a distraction and it takes us away from focusing on what is important. The like of Sega are blessed because they can focus on a part of the problem and then deal with that within a systemic setup. I know what he's trying to do there. He believes that he can change the police. And yeah, but my own thinking really is that to change the police, you actually have to change the system within which the police is functioning. The police is functioning exactly the way the system has designed it to function. That is why you see them setting up all those committees. That's why there is a long thing. There are enough laws to change the system positively if they will follow it. But as he has pointed out, when you design every system, it's meant to deliver certain imperatives. A system that is designed to deliver injustice is not going to turn around overnight to deliver equity. For it to stop delivering injustice, you would have to consciously work to make sure that the law rules. So you cannot deal with the problems in vacuum. When is enough going to be enough? It's been more than enough for way too long.
So it can be any time. We are on the ticking time bomb now, are we?
We are sitting on a ticking time bomb.
Right.
Enough is
Sega.
already enough.
I know. Sega, when do you think enough will be enough?
I think it is morally obligatory for us to be very factual with the things that we say, just like our evangelists have said. It is incumbent upon us to take responsibility for the obstruction that we have created between ourselves and our success as a people, and to stop blaming another for it. You see, that's one thing we have done for many years, and it has not actually brought us fruit. Our issues that we have in Nigeria, if you fix the police problem, we have fixed Nigerian problem, because they are one and the same. And what we're doing is a multi-layered engagement. While we're trying to fix the legal structures and the rest, we're also putting a stopgap in place to let the police know that this is actually for you. Which is one of the reasons why you see when I walk the street, no police officer is attacking me thinking that I'm against them. I am actually for them. And if this fails, in the next 70 years, the police will be worse than it is, because nobody would venture into this anymore. This problem has been for over 70 years. Police is actually older than Nigerian democracy. And with that, you can tell that the change is generational also. And there are some things that God orchestrates, every 100 years, just like the coronavirus, just like the engagement of police brutality and the rest in our nation, this, in a conscious way, without, people using it as a means or as a tool to fend for themselves. So they know that it has to work this time. And everybody knows that the people who are dealing with this are focused people who are not interested in regime change as such. It is not my prerogative. If we can fix the system, the people at the helm of affairs will resign themselves because it will no longer function for them based on their agenda. So that's exactly what we're working through. It's a new dispensation where things work for everybody and not just for the 1%. And we know that your question is an evolutionary timeline question, which begins to tell us that all empires collapse eventually. And we're in the dawn of a dying order. So pigeonholing the establishment, whether real or fictional, should be done strategically in such a way that we bring ourselves to fore to say, this is the role I am playing, this is the example I'm showing, and raise leaders from there who will be easy to govern, difficult to rule, and impossible to enslave. Thank you very much.
Sega and Evangelist Dele Farutimi. It's been a pleasure having you both tonight. It was impromptu, but all thanks to technology, it was easier, you see? So I would love to do this again, okay? I am actually pro breakup, but pending that time, we'll continue to hold that, that passport. I was in Nigeria in 2018. I was so determined that we could change the system by encouraging the young people to go and venture into politics and go in there and make the difference they want. So I invested the time, money. I encourage people all over the world to return to Nigeria. We gave the backing to Omojele Sowore, thinking that it will be an opportunity, that if we can't make them do the right thing, then let's get rid of them and send the people who will do the right thing in. But it never worked. Guess what? In my own state, Ogun State, apart from the fact that my own party members were telling me never to enter some local government, simply because of my stance on sharing money and all that. On the day of election, my own party member, they were selling their vote for 200 naira. That was where I had my break. That was the moment I was like, that's it, right? There is no way I'm going to continue to dispute few things I have read about the corrupt political system. Now, I have experienced it. I don't want to tell you the story of what we faced, getting our candidate passed through the INEC, DSS, and the rest of them. So I reached my own breaking point at that point. Hopefully, I will have this conversation again because I've learned a lot again from your views. So are my own viewers. So I want to say a big thank you. Just in a minute each.
Thank you.
You can actually give your own, round-up thank you or message to our listener and to Nigerians, as you call them. I'll start with Evangelist Dele Farutimi, sir. In a minute.
Yeah, I'll just say this. The road ahead looks rough. And it's actually quite easy to believe that it's not possible, given the difficulties and the history of our path. But I'm a believer. I believe that Nigeria can be much better than it is. But I also believe that that will only happen when the citizens themselves become engaged with the system. You do not change anything by remaining aloof. You engage it. I have engaged this system. Several others have engaged the system. The danger is in thinking that you are the only one doing it. No. At best, you are the one waking up the others. There are several others, and they are waking up. I know, because I can feel it. I mean, I know the kind of response I've gotten from Nigerians, and I'm not arousing, but I'm dead serious about my belief that Nigeria can change for the better. And even if we won't get there, it will be nice to die doing so. That way nobody forgets you. They will remember you died for something, you stood for something. So if you're ever going to die in a war, die in the war to make Nigeria a better place. It's a worthy cause. Thank you very much.
Sega, in a minute, what's the takeaway from the call? From the conversation today?
Yeah, thank you very much. I've learned so much myself. I've listened to Evangelist again, and I've listened to you too. Severally, I've been following up on your program, and I know that with more people like you, because you inspire us as well. When I get frustrated at times, and God just drops a message from any one of you, from people out there, and I get encouraged all over again. Our alien society actually characterizes people based on what it has conditioned them to become. So both the hailings and needless tantrums mustn't be allowed to derail the vision of people who are active citizens within the system. And it is never about the individual. So the ego must die to keep the focus on the strategy. I believe that a well understood social norms, state of order, structured society is possible in this country. And if we're driven by evidence, I believe that evidence illuminates and aligns everything. But we mustn't be forced to align with the brutish, primitive perception and prejudices of thugs and illiterates armed by the state to determine how we think about the future of this country for the sake of all our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sega. I am fulfilled for having you there today. It's a great honor. It will go down in history, and we will do it again. And that will be determined by events. Hopefully, you are right, right? And I can possibly, I'm genuinely serious. Hopefully, you are right. But I can open chapters and books of those who were so determined. They were no more, but God rest their souls. They were never forgotten. And that seems to be the evangelist sort of if all die will be die, right? If man go die, all die will be die. So thank you for your time. And I'm going to say, have a wonderful few hours that is left in this weekend to yourselves. Have a good one, sirs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So those are my guests. You have heard them. That is why we called it the conversation. I'm going to look around again. I'm going to look around and get people whose views are not completely aligned to ours, but their own opinion about things are deeper. And we will likely pick one or two things from them in a way that it will help us in deciding how we go about this. So people are going to be for, people are going to be against. And remember, they are responsible for their views. You are responsible as well for how you take them. So thank you for your time. It's been a long hour, but I would love to see you again when I have the chance. Good afternoon. That is it, the conversation.
Maiyegun ti dé, gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. Maiyegun ti dé, gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kí. Ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran. Kì máa rí ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣe ẹ̀fẹ̀. Máa ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣe ẹ̀fẹ̀. Ẹni láti lè lẹ́bọ̀ lẹ́rù o, ọmọ bá dèrò kàṣà ìtúwọ̀ síta.